Why does God allow you to suffer? Why does He let trials fall upon your life when you love Him and are trying to do the right thing? If you've ever asked yourself this question, listen closely, because the answer could change the way you see life. Many people think that trials are there to break them, to punish them, or to show them that they don't deserve happiness. But that's not true. The truth is that every trial you go through is part of a bigger plan that you can't yet see. A plan that's not meant to destroy you, but to prepare you. Before a diamond can shine, it must go through the fire. Before an athlete can win, he must train hard. And before God can lift you up, He must first prepare you. Tell me, have you ever experienced a moment when everything seemed to be falling apart? When you felt like everything was going wrong, that you were abandoned, alone in your suffering? Maybe you're in the middle of it right now. Maybe you're praying, asking God to change your situation, but nothing seems to be moving. You're wondering where He is, why He isn't answering. Let me tell you a truth that could change everything for you. When God seems silent, it's often because He is working in the shadows. Look at Joseph in the Bible. God had given him a dream, a vision of greatness. But before he reached the blessing, what happened to him? He was betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, and sold as a slave, falsely accused and thrown in prison. If you stop there, you might think God had abandoned him. But no, everything he went through wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Because after each trial, Joseph moved a little closer to his destiny. He learned patience, management, wisdom. He went from being a slave to the governor of all of Egypt. And if God had immediately given Joseph the power He had promised him, he wouldn't have been ready. He wouldn't have known how to govern, how to forgive, how to stand strong in the face of challenges. It's the same for you. What you're going through today, even though it hurts, is part of the process. What if the trial you're facing wasn't an obstacle, but a training? What if what you see as suffering is actually an opportunity that God is using to strengthen you? The reality is that if you want to be used by God for great things, you have to be tested. Because without a test, there is no testimony. Without a fight, there is no victory. Remember this phrase. What you see as a wall today, God sees as a door to your destiny. Don't give up. Hold on. God works in silence, but He's working for you. How many times have you asked yourself, why me? What did I do to deserve this? When we go through tough times, it's natural to think that God is punishing us. But let me tell you a truth that will change your perspective. Trials are not here to break you, but to build you. God does not allow you to suffer for no reason. He is training you. He is preparing you. In the Bible, there is a man who experienced everything: wealth, happiness, family, and the deepest suffering. This man was Job. Job was a man faithful to God, a righteous man. And yet, in an instant, he lost everything. His wealth, his children, his health, even his friends abandoned him. He could have said, God has forgotten me. He could have given up. But here's the truth. God hadn't forgotten Job. He was testing his faith. He was preparing him for a greater blessing. And at the end of the trial, Job received double of everything he had lost. Why? Because he remained faithful. Because he didn't give up. God never allows a trial without a reason. If you are suffering, it's because He is strengthening you for something greater. Look at these biblical truths. David had to face lions and bears before defeating Goliath. Moses spent 40 years in the desert before freeing his people. Joseph was betrayed and imprisoned before becoming governor. God always prepares before He elevates. And what if what you are going through today is just the warm-up before your victory? Do you want a better life? Do you want God to use you for great things? Then get ready to be forged. God will not give you something you are not ready to handle. If you want to be elevated, you must be prepared. Look at how a blacksmith makes a sword. He takes a piece of raw metal. He puts it in the fire to soften it. He hammers it over and over. To shape it, he dips it in water to strengthen it. Without the fire, without the hammer blows, without the cold water, this metal never becomes a sword. God does the same with you. The trial is the fire. The difficulties are the hammer. The silent moments are the cold water. All of this is not here to destroy you, but to strengthen you. Have you noticed something? Just before a big change happens in your life, it's often the moment when you're going through your greatest trial. You pray, you do everything right, but instead of things improving, they seem to get worse. Why? Because God always tests before elevating. Look in the Bible. Joseph was betrayed and thrown into prison just before becoming governor. Moses had to flee to the desert just before being called by God. Jesus was tempted for 40 days just before starting his ministry. The moment when you want to give up is often the last test before your breakthrough. Let's take Abraham. As an example, God had promised him a son, Isaac, when he was old. This promise was a miracle. Isaac represented the future, the descendants, the blessing. But one day, God put Abraham to the test and asked him to sacrifice Isaac. Imagine the pain. The son he had waited for so long. And now he had to lose him. Abraham could have rebelled, refused, given up. But he chose to obey. He took Isaac, climbed the mountain, built the altar. And just as he was about to do the unthinkable, God intervened. He said, "Do not touch the child." It was a test of faith. And because Abraham obeyed to the end, God blessed him beyond what he could imagine. What if what you're going through today is your last test before your blessing? What if this time of solitude is preparing you for a season of divine connection? What if this financial struggle is the last test before abundance? What if this emotional trial is the forge that will make you unshakable? God doesn't allow a test without reason. He wants to see how far your faith will go. You pray for patience. God won't just give you patience. He will put you in situations where you have to learn patience. You pray to be stronger. God won't just give you strength. He will send you challenges to forge you. God always tests before elevating. When you're in the trial, remember these 3 truths. 1, God has not forgotten you. Even if you don't see him acting, he's working in the shadows. 2, every test has an end. The trial won't last forever. Hang on. 3, after the trial comes the blessing. It's a spiritual law. Look at Job. He suffered, but in the end, he received double the blessing. Look at Joseph. He was betrayed, but in the end, he became powerful in Egypt. Look at yourself. What you're experiencing today does not define your future. It's just a step. When you go through tough times, you often feel alone, helpless, and wonder if God will really intervene. But did you know that in every trial, there is a hidden blessing? God never allows a difficulty without having a bigger plan for you. A plan that prepares you for something better is written in Romans 8:28. We know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. This means that even in the moments when you see everything falling apart around you, God is preparing a blessing you cannot yet imagine. Understanding the hidden blessing means understanding that God allows the trial to help you grow. He wants to take you to a higher level, to a new dimension of faith, but that requires going through a transformation. Look at Joseph in the Bible. His story is the perfect example of the hidden blessing. He was sold by his brothers, falsely accused, and imprisoned. But all of this was part of God's divine plan to place him in a specific place where he would not only be restored, but also used by God to save lives. Joseph's trial prepared him for greatness. He didn't see it coming, but God was always there, every step of the way, at every moment of his difficult journey. To discover the blessing in the trial, you need to adopt a different perspective. Here are a few keys to help you perceive what God is doing behind the curtain of suffering. 1. Seek to understand what God wants to teach you. Every trial is an opportunity to learn. Sometimes God wants us to learn patience, humility, or total dependence on Him. If you see your trial as an opportunity to learn and grow, you'll begin to understand that even difficult times are beneficial. 2. Be faithful in the trial. Faithfulness in the trial is the key to seeing the hidden blessing. Many people give up on God along the way, but it's in these moments that you must hold on. Job's faithfulness in the face of his suffering was rewarded. It's important to stay strong and continue honoring God even when you don't immediately see the results. 3. Pray with faith even when you see nothing. Your prayer in the trial opens the door to the blessing. Never stop praying, even when you think God isn't answering. God works in silence, and sometimes the blessing comes when you least expect it. Be persistent in your faith. 4. Believe that God has a better plan for you. God's blessings are often greater than we can imagine. You may not see the end of your trial right now, but God has a plan that exceeds your understanding. Believe that everything you are going through is preparing you to receive something bigger than what you had imagined. One of the most powerful aspects of the hidden blessing in the trial is that God wants you to exercise your faith. Faith is the key to accessing these blessings, but you must believe before you see. This is what God calls for in Hebrews 11. 1. Now, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. The blessing is not just in what you see, but also in what you believe. Believe that even when everything around you seems dark, God is working in you, and He is preparing something incredible for you. Hope is the light that helps you see beyond the storm. When you're in a trial, it's easy to get lost in the darkness, but hope in God reminds you that the light is coming. The hidden blessing is not only material, it is also spiritual. It may come in the form of inner peace, strength in faith, or even personal transformation. You may have lost something precious, but God is preparing you to receive something greater. He is teaching you to trust His timing and align it with His perfect will. The blessing arrives at the perfect time. Sometimes you feel ready to receive victory immediately, but God knows you need time to prepare. Divine blessings are not rushed. They come at the exact moment when you are ready to receive them and handle them. The Bible speaks to us about the perfect timing in the story of Moses. When he fled Egypt, he ended up in a desert for 40 years, far from his people. But this time allowed Moses to be refined and prepared to free Israel. All that time in the desert wasn't a loss, but a divine preparation for a great purpose. We explored together how trials are not meant to destroy you, but to prepare you for something greater. Every difficulty you face has a purpose that is often far bigger than what you can perceive in the moment. God is not distant during your struggles. He is present at every moment, ready to guide you and strengthen you. It's in times of suffering that your faith can become stronger and more solid, that you learn to truly trust God, and that you experience His transformative power. God never abandons us in our moments of weakness. He promises us that all things work together for the good of those who love God, Romans 8:28. Trials are part of the process by which God shapes you into His image, prepares you to fulfill a greater destiny, and gets you ready to be a blessing to others. I encourage you to walk by faith and not by sight. It's not always easy, and there will be moments when you feel weak, discouraged, and even helpless. But remember that God has everything under control. He is greater than your trials, and nothing escapes Him. When you choose to persevere in faith, you choose to strengthen your character, purify your heart, and affirm that God is sovereign even in difficult moments. In 2 Corinthians 4:17, the Apostle Paul says, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." I want to conclude this video with a message of hope. Even if you feel in the shadows today, know that the light is coming, and it's closer than you think. Every trial is an opportunity to deepen your relationship with God and experience His faithfulness in a new way. If you hold on, if you persevere in faith, you will see that God will make you a living testimony of His power, His grace, and His love. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Remember, you are never alone in your struggles. God is with you every step of the way. If this video touched you, don't hesitate to share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more messages of hope and faith. Keep your faith strong, and be ready to see God work in your life. See you very soon, and may God bless you.